Welcome to another edition of GW Unspoken, where we discuss stuff we don't typically talk about, but probably should. And what a great motto we should have now about technology use, because a lot of us hide behind technology. I know for number one, our kids often try and hide their technology or their phone when they're trying to text their friends, even on the way to school. Had an incident with that this morning, even saying, "Why are you on your phone?" "Oh, I'm not." They really were. It was just about trying to keep that oxytocin going through their body of feeling like they belonged, even though they're on their way to school and was in school in like 3 minutes' time. So what makes it so addictive? Why do we have to keep being on technology when we know the tool itself is amazing? I mean, you think about the phone, the mobile phone, what it does now. You people who are younger, probably younger than 20 or 30, probably wouldn't even understand what the phone used to look like, a mobile phone, and how much the development has caused, I suppose, ease and access to so many things now: internet, photos, messages, pictures, so many things we can do now on a phone, which makes life so much easier. It's a great tool. But unfortunately, a lot of us get addicted to that, and especially with social media and feeling like we belong to a group or need that dopamine hit from all those likes we see in all these posts. You know, today I had to talk to a couple of groups of students, and stereotypically it's girls who get wrapped up on social media more than boys, because boys are more onto games through the risk and their testosterone levels. They're sort of wired towards gaming. But it's really interesting that the girls came to me and talking about some social dynamics they have within groups and arguing between groups, and there's, you know, some bitchiness happening there and some arguing happening there. And I asked a question, I couldn't help it, I was being really curious, and said, "Can I ask a question? Did most of this start on social media?" And the answer was yes. And I've talked to a couple of other teachers who work in different schools, and I'll say to them, who are in similar positions of well-being and trying to support students and staff, and I'll say, "How many issues do you have with behaviour that actually stems from social media use on the weekends or at night time?" And the overwhelming response is between 80 and 90%. And so even though it's a tool that we can connect with, it's often where we feel brave, or we can say things where we're not face-to-face with people and think we can get away with it. But sometimes those words can sting, and sometimes those words can actually hurt us, and they resonate with our youth, and it plays in their brains, especially when we're in a world of wanting to be being accepted and wanting to belong. So my big question is to you: how is your phone use going? How is your social media use going? How's your gaming use going? And you might say, "Gary, well, it's okay for me. I'm an adult. I'm not addicted. That's how I socialise, and that's how I connect with people." And I get that. But a good friend of mine named John, he showed me the other day another part of the app, and maybe I'm a bit slow to know this. Maybe a lot of people know this already, but there's a tool within the settings that actually says how many pickups you've had, how many times you've actually picked your phone up. And they say the average is around 180 pickups a day now. And that's a lot of time wasted if you're not using it for business purposes or for work purposes or doing authentic communication with people. So how much time are you wasting? What could you be doing with that time? I was thinking about that the other day. Even getting a couple of movies under my belt, and we were watching a series show in the holidays in the second week, and I was like, man, we just probably watched this whole week about 6 hours of episode. I think we were watching Ted Lasso. It was hilarious, but I was just thinking, what we could have done with that 6 hours. And I also understand there's also a balance of having fun and recreation and relaxing and that kind of stuff as well. So the question I do ask people is, how's the big four practices going? And I call this the big four because I think these are the four things that really shape our social, emotional, mental health and physical health. So how are you going? Number one, nutrition. How are you going with that? 3 meals a day, 2 or 3 snacks a day. How are you going with your nutrition? Number two, movement. How are you going with your movement? Are you moving at least 20 minutes a day? Getting your heart rate up where you're getting a bit of a huff and a puff on, and it's hard to talk to someone you might be exercising with, or if you're on by yourself. 20 minutes a day. How's that going for you? How about sleep? I know a lot of adults these days lack sleep because they're working so hard and sometimes doing 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet. 7 to 9 hours sleep is what we're supposed to have. So how are you going consistently with that? Because apparently you can't catch up on sleep. It feels like you can, but it's a time when all that waste products leave our brains, and next week you have a clear brain for the next day. How many times have you actually woken up tired? I'd like to ask you that question. It'd be interesting to get your feedback from that one. How many times do you actually wake up and go, "Oh, I'm so rested, I feel good, I'm ready to go for the day," compared to you stumble out of bed, go through the same routine every single day, off to job, off to school, off to work, wherever you're going. Are you feeling flat or are you feeling good? So that's nutrition, movement, sleep, and how's your technology use going? Are you on social media less than 2 hours a day? Or are you gaming? Do you think you're addicted? Could you give it up? Do you want to give it up? Do you see the purpose of giving it up? As I said, kids, especially teenagers, they want to have identity, especially when they're at school and there's lots of different groups. But unfortunately, social media gives us a false persona often of who we are, and that can have a negative effect on groups of people and individuals. And that's when obviously other things like eating disorders, anxiety, depression can happen because people can overthink comments as well. The last thing I want to touch on today is the tools to increase your well-being. So we talked about technology and some of the negative things that comes with an addiction to technology. It's also really, it's important to understand that there's now more social-emotional issues due to the effects of technology, and they're now proving that. They're actually proving that's a given, it's a thing. So the number one thing I learned from a book I'm reading at the moment called Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before by doctor and psychologist Julie Smith. Why has nobody told me this before? And she comes up with tips and tricks in really small chapters about how we can actually improve the behaviours and the feelings that we have. And the thing I heard last night when I was going for a jog while the girls were at netball was it's okay to feel emotions. Our emotions don't define who we are. Our feelings don't define who we are. They don't dictate who we are. Sometimes it dictates our actions, but it's not who we are. And she was saying that we've got to understand that it's not okay just to ignore feelings. In fact, she says we should embrace feelings, take them on board, let them pass through us, let them understand to our brain, or let our brain understand that, hey, this is only a moment in time right now, and to express what kind of feelings I'm feeling, not just one word. So rather than I'm just angry, I'm irritable, I'm frustrated, I'm really annoyed because of this. And when you can actually identify that and use those terms, sometimes those emotions can filter out a lot more quickly. And the other thing she said was, as another tool, is to think about some things you can do to help yourself calm yourself down or get out of that mood you might be, that negative depression or anxiety state. So she said things like movement. Can you go for a walk? Can you go for a jog? Can you, I don't know, do something silly, dance around the kitchen, put Just Dance on, put some music on? Because movement gives us a flood of endorphins and make us feel good. What about some healthy eating? Can you go out and meet with somebody or go and have a nice healthy snack, because that releases dopamine as well, as long as it's a healthy snack, obviously, so you don't have those highs and lows with the sugar rush as well. Here's a new one. How about poetry? Have you tried doing a poem? I've never tried to do that. I've done it once or twice, I think, writing a song, but there's people out there who are into poetry. So slowing down and being creative is so important. A lot of times we get that knocked out of us when we're younger because, you know, the school system often tells us what to do, where to be, and what to learn. But when we're young, we're probably often doing poems and songs and dance as well. It's part of our culture, part of any culture. What about read? Sometimes it's really hard to get into a good book. But if you start in an area that might interest you and give yourself a goal of saying, okay, just 10 minutes or just 15 minutes or just 10 pages, you might find that you actually get hooked with it and actually find some interest in it, because books are great because it's us telling us the story, not somebody else. How about some art? Not my forte. I know my youngest one used to always wake me up when she was about 1 year old, 2 year old, pulling me out of bed at 4 o'clock in the morning to do some art with her. I think I'd fallen asleep half the time and she used to hit me in the pencil on the back of the head to wake up and do some art with her. But maybe if you are good at art, maybe you're good at colouring in, just to give you some kind of focus. Another one that a lot of the kids love and adults do is music. Music can change the feeling you have, the tone of your mood, the tone of your whole household sometimes. I think we started doing R&B Friday for a while. That was very interesting. But what kind of music do you like? Can you put on some music and it can maybe subtly change your mood? How about some mindfulness? That's very interesting because Dr. Julie Smith said that you can't really do mindfulness and be calm while you are really angry. When you're angry, you should really try and do some movement first to get rid of that, like a cathartic effect. And then you can actually start being calm and trying those things. I've tried it a couple of times with my daughter doing the Resilience Project journal, and they are very good. One of them we're using at the moment that we love is the Calm, CALM app. And it's a free app and it's got different mindfulness or meditations in there. And sometimes it takes a while to get into it, or two or three to get the right one for you. But once you do it, it's amazing how much at peace you can feel just by slowing your brain down. What about some animal petting? We've talked about before where if you pat the dog and the dog wags its tail, it feels good. You feel good that you've made the dog feel good and happy. And so both of you actually have endorphins running through your bodies, or even through the dog. The dog feels happy as well. It's been petted. So it's a way you can go for a walk or go out and just play with the animal for a while, throw a ball, or if it's a cat, just lie there and what cats do. You can make sure you give them a scratch and make them feel good without them scratching you. And maybe that's a way you can actually calm down. But another book called Stolen Focus by Johan Hari, he says the same thing. You've got to try and do something that gives people focus, because a lot of times these days we lack focus. Our teenagers will lack focus because they're so overstimulated with that dopamine system in their bodies going through the roof because of the technology addictions they do have. So something that takes an activity, movement, food, poetry, reading, art, music, mindfulness, animal petting, all these things that go for about 45 minutes to an hour. So it gives you some actually focus, some focus to calm. It can actually slow you down, bring back that dopamine system, make you be present, maybe get in touch with how you feel. I love being out in the environment. It's a massive one at the moment, getting outside, even if it's raining, feeling the rain in your face. What are some things that can calm you down? How are you going with your big four? I'd like to challenge you now with a journal. Journal entries are huge. It's the latest thing that I'm hearing a lot of at the moment. It's not the latest thing, but things I hear a lot of these days is about how to journal. We're doing it each night at home, and it's working. I can tell you, it changes our emotions. Number one, identify how your big four is going. How is your nutrition, movement, sleep, and your technology use going? Check out your settings of your phone. How much time are you on the phone? Can you limit that? Can you change that to something that's more creative for yourself? Identify what they are. Number two, what tools can you use or try to make you feel better when you're in those times of need, when you're down? Can you move? Can you go and read for a while? Can you listen to some music? My one that sounds really weird is that if I'm really down or frustrated, I'll come to work and I'll just smile, put a fake smile on and say hello to the first 3 to 5 people I see and say, how you going? And actually stop and listen and wait. Even though I'm frustrated and impatient, don't want to do that, sometimes just them smiling back gives me those mirror neurons, and I naturally do a proper smile and it has endorphins rush through my body and I actually feel good because I'm thinking of somebody else. Even at the time I don't want to do that. And that doesn't make me cool. It just means it's a strategy I use now. So try that. Put a ridiculous, stupid smile on your face and say hello to someone, not in a weird way, but smile, say hello, and ask about how they're going. Another one that I have, it's really embarrassing, is if I can't sleep at night and my wife's asleep and I'm just thinking about too many things, I'll actually go out and actually do a half-hour episode of Seinfeld because I've used to watch that all my life. And for some reason, I don't know if it's the white noise or whatever, I'll just start falling asleep. It's something I'm common and use. And I suppose it is technology. It's probably not overstimulating technology. I think it's funny, but again, it's something that I'll just actually eventually slow down and fall asleep to if my brain's overworked. So maybe try those. Smile. Can you move? Can you read? Can you just do an activity that can actually slow you down? What tools can you use that you can try now to help you de-escalate? And the last thing I want to say is, how can you reach out and help others? And rather than say things like, how are you going or are you okay, and asking those questions, again, psychologist Dr. Julie Smith, who wrote that book, Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before, says, rather than say, are you okay, say, hey, what's on your mind? And it's an open-ended question that allows them to speak even more openly about what that is. And then you can be curious. And if you're being curious, empathetic, she says, and showing kindness, then you're probably the person they need the most right there and then to chat. So try those things. Try a journal entry. I challenge you to write in, tell us how you're going with your big four. Is it making a difference if you can change those things? And we'll be back for season 5, episode 6 about technology use very shortly. Thanks for joining in on GW Unspoken.